Hi Connor.
Hi Stephen.
Thanks for coming along today to give us an overview on WAB. To get us started, would you mind explaining what WAB is?
Sure. WAB is the Balanced Labour Market Act, Stephen, and it was introduced on the 1st of January 2020. We're going to go into some detail today around how this impacts both the employer and also the worker.
And why would you say WAB is important?
Whoa. I tell you, Stephen, this is something we're really passionate about and we've been speaking about a lot recently. But in essence, its importance is for this reason and this reason alone. It reduces the flexibility that end users or employers previously had when they got to engage or went to engage payrolled workers. But two, the change in legislation has actually increased the cost and the cost of engaging these payroll workers, so much so that in some cases it's going to be prohibitive.
And would you say then, if companies haven't looked into this, is it something that they need to look at pretty quickly?
Yes. And I suppose, Stephen, this is a ticking time bomb for those companies that haven't looked at it. This legislation went live on 1st of January 2020. And what we found is that it caught a lot of large organisations and medium-sized organisations by surprise. And because of the onerous obligations that this puts on these companies, if they fail to get it right, it will have a number of quite serious effects for their organisation from a compliance perspective.
So what other changes do employers need to know about around WAB, Connor?
Sure, Stephen. The biggest one is cost. And there's three real costs that are going to increase or at least change for the end users of payrollers in Netherlands. One is that the payroller will now have the same rights as an employee, so they'll have to have the same pay, for example, same holidays, same bonus, same car allowance, same access as those employees, right? And that's going to increase the cost profile when you engage a payroll worker. Two is that those payroll workers will now have to be part of what's called a mandatory pension scheme. And that's quite costly in the Netherlands. Three, there's now what's called a transition payment. And this transition payment is payable when a worker leaves that particular contract under the payroll. So that's going to be quite a significant amount of money, that transition payment, particularly as it's based on the tenure of the worker. So I guess the longer the worker's there, the more expensive it's going to be. And that transition payment, Stephen, can only be terminated or reduced by mutual consent, and it's very unlikely that an employee or payroll worker will actually agree to that.
Okay, well it sounds like there's going to be a lot of challenges for the employers.
Yes.
Do you think, or have you come across any benefits that there will be for companies from WAB?
There is a small benefit, but that benefit can actually be a detriment depending on how you look at it. But essentially the benefit is that if you engage payrolled workers on what's called an indefinite contract, you can actually get a lower rate of unemployment insurance. So I suppose that is a benefit when we've talked about and shown some of the costs that will increase.
That does sound like there's a lot of costs involved. It also sounds like there might be a huge administrative process.
Agreed, Stephen. I mean, the cost is just something that can't be avoided in any way. However, the administrative process, we've seen a huge interest in working with companies like CXC to lessen that administrative burden, and we've got a lot of experience working with companies to help them prepare for this change and also administer this change as well.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Stephen.